Hurricane Laura could bring unprecedented destruction to parts of the Gulf Coast. The National Hurricane Center warning of unsurvivable storm surge. NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns joins me now. Bill, I know you have tracked plenty of hurricanes over your career, but you said it yourself on Twitter today. You don't get rattled easily, but you're feeling sick over this one. Where is Laura right now? How bad does this storm look? What can you tell us?
This is the strongest storm we've ever, in our recorded history in our country, have ever seen in the Northwest Gulf. This will be the strongest storm, the storm of record on the Texas-Louisiana border. This will be a stronger landfall than Rita did, and it'll be stronger winds than Ike. Now, will the storm surge be similar to those or worse? That potential is there. The storm rapidly has intensified as we feared over the last 24 hours. It looks like that has leveled off. It's most likely still going to make landfall as a Category 4 hurricane, which has never happened in this region, with winds of 145 miles per hour. And it's closing in on the coastline. The water levels are already going up on the coast. The storm surge is slowly arriving. It'll rush on shore later on this evening towards midnight. They're already told people it's too late to evacuate the coastal areas because the water's already covering a lot of those roads. So the forecast update, the 5 o'clock update, didn't have any big changes. We're still expecting a landfall somewhere between Beaumont and Port Arthur and Lake Charles, and that puts Cameron Parish on the dirty right side. That's where this devastation will be. You know, Holly Beach is one of those spots that in Rita, it was eliminated. There was nothing left. It's a small community of beach homes, and they rebuilt them all, or a lot of them. And the same thing is probably going to happen again. Yeah. There probably won't be any left. We're going to get a 15 to 20-foot storm surge with 10-foot wave action and 120 to 130 mile per hour winds on top of that. Oh. So those structures, even on 15-foot stilts, are not going to survive. So, there's not a lot of people that live in that area right on the coast there, but there are some. And then we move inland. And then the storm will be a huge power outage problem all the way through Louisiana, and then a big rain event as we go throughout the middle of the country. But we can deal with that in the days ahead. The big concern is right now on the coast. I want to give you a couple different satellite views because this is what we call our infrared. You can obviously see the eye becoming very apparent here. Very symmetrical storm, a very strong, powerful storm as you'd expect with a Category 4. Here's a mesmerizing view zoomed in tight. These are 1-minute images we get from our satellites of the eye itself. You can actually see little what we call mesovorticities, little low pressures inside the eye that are actually spinning inside of it. And it's just another sign of how powerful the storm this is. And what this all leads to is at the landfall, all the energy gets transferred inland. And that's where we see all the power outages, the downed trees, the storm surge will be the big issue. We've even had a couple tornadoes today, and a tornado watch continues. So there's just multiple facets when you get a storm this strong coming on shore. But the thing that's going to get the biggest headline will be the storm surge. 15 to 20 feet doesn't happen often. Katrina was 28-foot storm surge. Ike was between 17 and 22 feet on the Bolivar Peninsula. It's rare to get storm surges that are predicted 15 to 20 feet. And what's interesting is that southern Louisiana is so swampy. It's so low elevation. Lake Charles is at 15-foot elevation, 30 feet inland. And they're expecting the storm surge to go all the way up through Calhoun Parish here, up the Calhoun River into Lake Charles. Lake Charles is expecting a record-breaking river height on the Lake Calhoun River of 15 feet. The city elevation is 15 feet. The National Weather Service has told us that at 13 feet, half of the city floods. 78,000 people call Lake Charles home. And we're talking about a water level that that's 2 feet higher than the record in 1913, which no one was around for anyways. So, you can imagine the incredible damage potential that's in the Lake Charles area. So, Allison, that's kind of where my focus of attention is going to be as we go throughout the next 12 hours. We get the eye moving onshore. The Houston area looks pretty good. But, the southwest Louisiana, it's a sparsely populated area. Yeah. But not a lot is going to remain at the coastal areas when it hits.
Ugh. Bill, after listening to your forecast, I could certainly understand why you had that pit in your stomach. All I could think to say is that we're going to pray for those people because it really sounds like they're in for a rough one.
And they're going to need help, a lot of help when this is over. And how many volunteers are going to show up in the midst of COVID to help all these people? A lot of interesting dynamics, in this COVID world, with a huge, major landfalling hurricane.
Oh, it's scary stuff. Bill, thank you so much for the update. Hurricane Laura, now a powerful Category 4 storm. Forecasters warning of a potentially catastrophic strike along the Texas-Louisiana coastline. MSNBC host Ali Velshi is in Beaumont, Texas. Ali, never one to shy away from a catastrophic storm. How are things there right now? Looks calm, but I know there's some rough stuff heading your way.
Yeah, this is very common for ahead of a hurricane. You can see it's cloudy. These are some outer bands, but you can see some sunlight. We are about 6 hours away from really feeling the effects of it. There have been rain in the bands around here. The danger here is twofold. First of all, the 5 p.m. outlook has come out about this hurricane, and it has strengthened. So they are expecting it to make landfall sometime around midnight to 1 a.m. this morning at 150 miles per hour winds. That's a strong Category 4. It's only 5 miles lower than a Category 5. So this region has not seen that, and this region has seen remarkable devastation from hurricanes that were nowhere nearly that strong, including not just the wind damage, but as you know, deaths from hurricanes largely come from flooding. And this area, particularly Beaumont, Texas, if you remember during Harvey, this flooded. The whole place flooded. So we're looking at water levels that are normal right now. We're roughly at sea level. We're at 30 miles from the Gulf of Mexico. And we are looking at, if it gets to 6 feet above where we are, we're going to have problems. And if it gets to what they're expecting, which might be 15 feet, this place is going to be cut off once again. So there's that, Allison. And then if you can see over there, we've got some canals here, some bayous. But you can see that yellow line across. That's a pipeline. This is oil country that we are in. You can see a valve head right to the left of it over there. So we've had a lot of shutdown of oil producing in the Gulf of Mexico on those rigs and platforms, and a lot of shutdown in refining here. So that, of course, makes this of national interest, because if oil facilities get damaged or flooded or shut down for a long time, that'll affect people well beyond this region.
Allie, let's talk about that. I mean, the double threat here. Obviously, we're first concerned about folks being safe and getting out of that area.
Sure.
Second, of course, the economic impact. I mean, it just seems like they're going to get a double whammy here.
Yeah, and I'll just give you a picture of this. We're in Beaumont, Port Arthur, which is probably going to get hit worse than we are because it's closer to the Gulf, about 30 miles from here, Lake Charles east of here. Beaumont and Port Arthur form part of what's called a golden triangle. This is massive refining capacity. So I'll just give it a picture of it. In the Gulf of Mexico, there are tens of thousands, or 10,000 rigs roughly. And of that, during Hurricane Katrina, they shut down 90%. 84% was shut down as of this afternoon. So that's somewhere close to 2 million barrels of production from the Gulf of Mexico, and that comes into this area to be refined. The biggest refinery in the United States is in Port Arthur. It refines 600,000 barrels a day. It's closed. 7 other refineries are closed. So that's 2.2, 2.3, something like that, million barrels a day of oil that's not getting refined. So that is not just the oil that you won't get, not just the price of gas that's going to get higher, but people who work in this. This area is employed by the oil and gas industry. So there's that. And of course, there's the safety. There's the idea that power will go out. So people around here won't be able to operate from anywhere from 3 to 7 days, maybe longer. I don't see them right now, but I've been watching. This is Route 10, and I've been seeing electric vehicles, those bucket trucks going by. They're positioning in place because we know there's lots of trees around here. They're going to go down. There's going to be wind damage. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong around here. And what folks were hoping for was in this latest update, which will be the last one really before we've got the hurricane coming on, it was going to show a slight weakening, and it did the opposite. It showed a strengthening.
Allie, one more question for you, because as you panned over there, I saw some cars going through, but have you seen much traffic? Have most people who needed to get out gotten out?
So you'll see a lot less traffic than we did earlier today. Generally speaking, everybody who's left who's going to leave will have left by now. There's still some traffic. You see it's mostly commercial, a lot of emergency, but there's still some people driving. That'll come to an end in the next few hours.
All right, Ali Velshi, thank you so much for your coverage, and please stay safe out there. I know you're bracing for a rough one tonight. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
Millions of Americans along the Gulf Coast are bracing for a potentially catastrophic hurricane. That is Laura, of course, while they're still dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. Dr. Amesh Adalja, an infectious disease doctor and a senior scholar at Johns Hopkins, joins me now. Dr. Adalja, what advice do you have for people who are preparing for Hurricane Laura right now in this pandemic?
Take the same preparations that you would take during any hurricane season. We know that hurricanes can be deadly, they can be disruptive, and we don't want people to skimp on preparing for the hurricane because of COVID-19. I do think it's going to be challenging because of social distancing, because of emergency shelters in the COVID-19 pandemic, but it is something that we want to get right, and we don't want people to unnecessarily be harmed because they're worried about COVID-19 and not taking the appropriate precautions for the hurricane.
We could see thousands of people in hurricane shelters. Obviously, social distancing is going to be a challenge there, even if they are trying to maintain it. Are you expecting to see a spike in cases in the South in the weeks to come?
Anytime people socially interact and are unable to practice social distancing is going to be an opportunity for the virus to spread. So if there are a large amount of people that have to go to temporary shelters where social distancing is very difficult, you have to anticipate that there are going to be cases, and there may be public health guidance that those who are in those shelters should consider themselves exposed and get tested or self-quarantine for 14 days.
Let's talk about potential vaccines. Moderna says its vaccine is showing promising results in elderly patients. How significant is that, considering the elderly are often most vulnerable to COVID-19?
It is something that's promising, and it's welcome news to many people that are following this, because we know that individuals that are in the high-risk group tend to be older. So we want to make sure that the vaccine works in that group. And we know other vaccines don't work so well in the elderly population. So it is really important to know whether or not neutralizing antibodies are formed and T-cell immunity is formed in elderly populations. That being said, remember, this is only still a small number of people that were in this report that Moderna released, and we want to see more data in bigger groups of the population to be able to say for sure how well it works in the elderly.
What other kinds of results, what things are you watching for in these vaccine trials that will be a sign of success for you?
The real success is going to come in phase 3 clinical trials, when people who are vaccinated face the virus in their day-to-day life, and we see how well those antibodies, how well that T-cell immunity that we've seen in earlier clinical phases fares against the real virus. And that's when we know this works. And we also want to know, when you vaccinate a high number of a population, tens of thousands of people, are there any side effects that are rare that you start to see that might pose a problem later on? So it's really the phase 3 clinical trial where we'll see everything we need to know about this vaccine and how safe it is, how effective it is, and what much of an impact it will have on the trajectory of the pandemic.
All right, Dr. Adalja, always great to see you. Thanks for being back on the show.
Thank you.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.